So, good morning. I'm Maxine Weil, or the Sydney Clark, Council Member Sydney Clark likes to call me Mayor Max. And I grew up in Olivet. We moved into Olivet the summer of 1966, so now you'll figure out my age because I was going into first grade. And this past week, my mother moved out of the house I grew up in, on Woodmore, which backed up to Villa Park. So I was talking with a friend this morning. I said, "You remember when it was greenhouses before it became a park?" And so we were just reminiscing about that. So what I wanted to share with everyone this morning is, before we get started and have a chance to speak with Chief Beth, as I like to call her, or Chief Andruski, I'd like everyone to go around and just say either how long you've lived in Olivet, your name and how long you've lived in Olivet, or how long you've worked in Olivet. Because some of you don't live in Olivet. Barb said I should do the residents. So David, will you get us started?
David Goldie, I've been here.
Keep on 40 years.
Great.
5 years.
And who's in the, great. Right, well, we take alumni, okay, and with some of the staff, we start with Tiana.
Barb Sundag, I've been here almost 9 years.
Great. And we would like to put in the chat room, the people that are on Zoom, if they could put in the chat room their name and how long they've been here. And Barb will read that off, and then we have one more person here. Great. And I believe when Barb said, Barb Sondag said this, she's been here 9 years, I believe that this week is her anniversary with all of that. Next week. Very good. So it's exciting. So is there anyone on Zoom that would like to introduce themselves?
I think we have Leslie on. Leslie, if you want to put in, use the chat button, you can type in your name, how long you've been here. Or we can just go on.
So we're going to go ahead and I'd like to take a minute to, sorry.
Hi, I'm Leslie Regard, and I've lived in Olivet for almost 40 years. I didn't realize that. Wow. Awesome. Thank you, Leslie.
So this morning I'd like to introduce everyone, Chief Andruski. Chief Elizabeth Andruski is a 17-year veteran with the City of Olivet Police Department and transitioned to a new position this past spring on May 24th, 2022. She has proven her record of strategic budget and policy management and a commitment to community engagement and personnel development with within Olivet. Chief Andruski is from Overland Park, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Kansas, and graduated from Shawnee Mission High School, South High School in 1998. Chief Andruski received a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice and a certificate in Forensic Science from the St. Louis.
Mayor, I think Leslie's having trouble hearing you. There you go. Thanks, Leslie.
That better?
Whoa. Chief Andruski is from Overland Park, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City, Kansas, and graduated from Shawnee Mission South High School in 1998. Chief Andruski received her Bachelor's of Arts in Criminal Justice and a Certificate of Forensic Science from St. Louis University in 2004, and a graduate from Eastern Missouri Police Academy in 2005. In 2007, she earned a master's degree in criminal justice administration from Lindenwood University. Chief Andruski is a 2021 graduate of the FBI National Academy. Internationally known for its academic excellence, the National Academy offers 11 weeks of advanced communication, leadership, and fitness training. Participants must have proven records as professionals within their agencies to attend. On average, these officers have 21 years of law enforcement experience and usually return to their agencies to serve in executive level positions. If you noted earlier, she's 17 years, so. She has served as an investigator in multiple homicide investigations with the Major Case Squad of Greater St. Louis, an investigative unit made up of police investigators from police departments in the St. Louis metropolitan area, which includes both Missouri and Illinois. Chief Andruski is married to Ken Andruski Jr., Chief of Police, and they have for Ladue, the Ladue's Chief of Police, and have 3 children. She enjoys traveling, spicy Mexican food, the ocean, and sharks. So with no further ado, I want to welcome you this morning. And I'm going to pass you the mic because I'd love for you to share, now that people know more about your bio background, not, the intricate parts, share with us what led you to, when you went away to school, to want to go into criminal justice and eventually law enforcement.
So as Madam Mayor said, I went to St. Louis University for college. I moved over to St. Louis in 2020 from Kansas City area. All of my family are originally from St. Louis, which is kind of how I ended up here. And went to St. Louis University to finish my bachelor's degree. I actually started off as a nursing major. So I was kind of a little bit of a science nerd in college and high school. And, before I really didn't like any subject so much. I was one of those kids that really didn't care about school. I kind of turned it around when I got into college though. And like I said, became kind of a little bit of a science nerd. So I was into nursing, and then at SUE, they had a really great forensics program. So I ended up over there, and I kind of saw my future leading into more like lab work, biology lab work. And so after I finished the forensics program and graduated, though, at that time, it seemed like the police academy was just the next strategic move. And after I graduated from the police academy, I was hired on here and started here in 2005. Chief Hank Davenport was the chief and hired me on. And then I just kind of, before you know it, now it's 17 years later, here I am. So I went back to school actually pretty soon after I started here to get my master's degree. And still at that time, I was a little bit, on the fence, like kind of where my career was going to go, and still had an interest in science, but ended up doing the administrative aspect to it. And I've always loved my career here. It's been a great place to work. Obviously, people who come and live in Olivet stay for very long periods of time. So we hear that a lot. I think that all of our officers would probably say what we hear, a lot of times on calls is, my name is so-and-so, and I've lived in Olivet for however many years, and usually it's decades. So, or if they haven't lived here for a long period of time, they have family or somebody else who has lived here. So it's obviously a great community. I've never left, and we have a lot of officers who stay long periods of time in residence too. So sure.
That's a perfect segue to my next question. First of all, we also know now we have alumni that come back for coffee with the mayor. So if you move away, you can come back. They say you can't come home, you can come home. But when you just talked about Olivet and staying as long as you have, can you share with us some of your highlights over the last 17 years?
So again, as the mayor mentioned, I spent a period of time on the Major Case Squad, and I think my time in our detective bureau was one of my favorite times. I loved the major case squad. I just recently was appointed as a deputy commander earlier this year. But then was promoted to the chief's position. So I never had the opportunity to fill in as a deputy commander, which I looked forward to, but as a chief, it's not really a position that, you know, you can't really be sent out to a call out as a deputy commander. It's usually, higher supervisory positions, but not really for chiefs necessarily. So I'm hoping my husband is on the board of Major Case Squad, so I'm hoping to at least serve in that capacity at some point in my career. So I loved investigations. Sergeant Luthen, who was over there, quiet over there, is one of our Major Case Squad investigators too. Has spent time in the bureau, and I think again, investigations is just such a fun part for me of this career. And I've served in different capacities though too. Along with that, I was a road sergeant for several years, worked, day shifts, midnight shifts, and assisted Chief Wolf when he was here with our CALIA process, which is a tedious administrative process, which is not very fun, but I'm happy to say that, we are CALIA accredited now. So those are kind of some of like the big things I remember, but as far as, my favorite kind of fun part of this job, I would say was investigations. So, yeah.
I know that this morning we advertised that we were going to be showing the body cams, but in addition to the body cams, and before we go there, can you tell us other tools that our police force uses, our police department uses to help keep Olivet and its residents safe and comfortable so they can sleep at night?
So as you all know, the cameras, of course, are becoming a huge part of investigations. We just recently started using body cameras. We've had cameras in our patrol cars for years, as most agencies do. CCTV, I mean, even now it's like, how many TV shows do they have about CCTV and crime? So that is becoming, as years go by, a much bigger part of our investigative process and helping us to solve crimes. Things as simple as just Ring cameras on people's houses are a tremendous benefit to us and investigations. Not too long ago, unfortunately, we had a homicide on 170 a couple years ago, and it was thanks to camera footage that led us to a suspect's vehicle and was able to lead us to an arrest. Again, amazing investigation work. Sergeant Lothan, again, was a huge part of that investigation. And it was one of those cases that I really did not have a lot of confidence that it was going to be solved because we had such little information to go. I mean, we really had nothing to go on other than a blue car, and how many blue cars are there in the world. But thanks to the investigators and again, camera footage, we were able to solve that crime, which, years ago certainly would not have ever been solved. And it was a very unfortunate incident. So we are continuing to move forward. We're looking at license plate readers for this year, which again is a beneficial tool that a lot of agencies are using as far as finding stolen cars that are wanted in recent crimes that have just occurred that are traveling through the St. Louis metro area. It allows law enforcement to potentially be able to track those cars and find suspects to some, very serious crimes. So that's one of the things. There are one of the biggest issues now, especially in the St. Louis area, though, I would say is, just old-fashioned communication with other departments and the community. As you all know from listening to the news every day, it's like, how many times do you hear about stolen cars and carjackings and all of these stuffs going on? There have been different task forces that have been set up to kind of try and combat some of those kind of crime waves. And really a lot of that, though, I would say is solved, like I said, by old-fashioned communication with information coming in and our detectives and officers communicating with other agencies surrounding us. And, it's kind of like boots on the ground is one of the best methods of combating crime. And again, going back to the communication, which is great that we have that with our residents, because without our residents, without you guys communicating us, letting us know what's going on in your neighborhoods, letting us know about problematic things that you see, or maybe something that came up on your camera, it makes our job a million times more difficult. So, you know, some of those things are just kind of how we do our job every day. And as far as some of the other investigative tools, I won't get into all of that because that probably gets a little too complex and tedious. And yeah, you guys probably don't want to listen to it because it's not that interesting. So
Can we give everybody a demonstration? You show a video? Okay, great.
yeah, do you want to? Okay, you're going to move the camera. I can kind of briefly show you, we were talking about tools, just why we're looking at Sergeant Luthen's camera, where it's placed. I can just kind of briefly describe to you these. The middle, yeah, it works. Maybe just like right here. Is that good? You've been promoted and you're going to be a model. So that's what's happening today.
Should have got a haircut.
So these are our LBVs, they're load bearing vests, which is what we also switched to recently. We put out a little bit of information to the public just because our officers were going to kind of have a new look. The reason why we went to these vests is really officer wellness. As you can imagine, this is a lot of weight. Even just the belt that I'm carrying with limited stuff on it are heavy, and notoriously police officers have really terrible back problems. Especially by the time they retire. I go twice a year to get back injections, and I've started that years ago, so I don't think that's going to change anytime in my lifetime. But these vests are able to allow for weight to be distributed on the officer's body better, so they're not putting so much weight and pressure on their lower back. So that's one of the reasons why we switched to these. And so a lot of times you'll see, you know, it looks a little intimidating to some people, but really we have not started carrying any more equipment than we used to. It's just placed differently. It's not on our belts anymore. So you have your radio, taser, an extra taser cartridge, handcuffs. This is a tourniquet, which we of course hope that we never have to use for ourselves or anybody else. And then you have things like OC or like pepper spray, flashlight, and body worn cameras, and then of course firearm. So again, this is nothing new. We're just carrying it in different place now for officer wellness. And then this is the new body camera. So if you run into a police officer, you know, and you're wondering what that is, yeah. So
You'll see a red light up here, indicates it's recording.
so
Pretty much it. Press it once to turn it on, hold it down, 3 seconds, turns it off.
and everybody kind of carries one around on their phones now these days anyway. The body cameras are really beneficial though, because it does help us going back and for investigative purposes. It also helps, you know, it holds officers accountable. It also helps hold the public accountable when there's discrepancies in something that's happened, something that was said, something that was done. We're able to, you know, look back on the video and able to investigate that. Now, there are limitations to the camera, as you can see, just like if you were pointing your phone at something, you only have so much view. So if Sergeant Luthen is talking to you, this camera is not going to pick up what's happening over here or over there or behind him. So that is definitely something that people have to consider when they're using body cameras as an investigative tool, or, you know, questioning something that maybe didn't go right. So from that, I will let Lothan go and just show you just a quick video. I think it's maybe one just from a.
Whole thing weighs about 32 pounds with everything on it.
It's like
But that's body armor panels, front and rear, plus all this stuff. It's about 32 pounds, I think, 32 pounds.
wearing that for 12 hours a day it's a little heavy. So. Very hot. I had mine on the other day for a short time and I was like, "Oh, I forgot how hot these are." So
The
just
nice thing about these though, if you're out in the heat and you come in to type a report or whatever you have to do, you can take it off. It just unzips, set it next to you for a few minutes and it's easy to put back on, where before we had to wear them under our uniform, so you didn't have that ability. So this video that I'm going to share is it's a call that we go on very commonly. It's just an alarm at a residence. We just pull up to the house, check out all the doors and windows, make sure there's no signs of a burglary or anything like that. So I'll just go ahead and play it and get an idea of.
I think gives you an idea of anybody who has an alarm on their house. You've had a note from an officer or something when you come out. What happens at your house when your
Sure,
alarm
and
goes
this
off?
particular one, the house was all locked up and there was no problems. If for some reason we find an open door and we go inside, we'll leave a notice there that we were inside your house.
This is just kind of giving you a view, so looking back, this is what we're able to see, and as you can see, there are limitations to it because you're not able to view what's happening on either side, but.
You start running, it's kind of like it make
It's a
you a
little
little
wobbly.
sick to watch it. The bird. Everybody see the bird? Scared the bird, bird scared me.
The video, with body, when, departments started really seriously looking at body cameras, a few years ago. Of course, like everything with technology, I think has developed drastically, like it's much, much better than it was when we did a couple trials years back. The video was just wasn't good. And just not good. So, it's phenomenal now compared to, and I only expect it to get better.
Like a couple of hours, I would think,
Yeah, I'm.
depending on how much
honestly don't-
battery's left.
Yeah, some of it depends on the battery. They do have to be, charged frequently. Battery life is something that I hope improves, as time goes on. But I don't know the answer to that. It should hold quite a bit. It would
I've had
probably be more the
videos an hour, upwards of an hour. And that's no problem. If I had 5% battery, it's not gonna run for an hour. It would die, but we do charge them throughout the day. If I come in for lunch, or if I have a few minutes, I'll throw them in the dock. And give it a little charge, so. I don't know if I can show them that. They do have sound. This one,
battery.
we weren't even really talking.
I know, I just wanted to.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, sorry, it does have sound, yeah. And we were having a little trouble with the sound on here earlier, but yes, it does have sound. So of course, and the audio is pretty.
It is. To a server, yes.
Yes, yes. Mhm. So right now, the officers turn them on manually. We do have one car camera that will be going in, the newest vehicle added to the fleet. So
Sorry.
our current car cameras and our body cameras don't mesh. They don't talk to each other because they're different systems. The car camera that we're looking at now would sync up with our body cameras. So if those end up being kind of the car cameras that we go to in the future, they would connect. So they would go on automatically. Like, for instance, if an officer was in his patrol car and turned on his lights, that would trigger the body camera. So that would be a huge benefit. But as of right now, they just turn them on manually, which fortunately, I mean, it's just a, quick button. So, yeah. So, are they cheap? No. Overall, there, again, I would say from where, it's like the price of like flat screen TVs when they first came out, you pay $5,000 for it. But so I think that the cost compared to where they, first came out is probably, more reasonable. But it is an expensive item. The body cameras themselves are expensive. We have one for each officer. So that particular camera is assigned and designated that that's going to be all of Sergeant Lothan's footage or all of a different officer's footage. And then, of course, storage is expensive, which here we're fortunate that we have a city who's able to, pay for the technology, because there's a lot of cities who yeah, it's just too expensive. And I know that, the public is in a lot of parts of the nation, or like, our officers have to have body cameras. But unfortunately, some cities, when you're talking about thousands of officers in some departments, it's just not a reasonable expense for each officer to be equipped with one, at least where the cost of them is right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Over here. So we have the retention for these, I think, is like 90 days minimal.
It varies. And
Yeah.
you can save any video that's say is important or actually related to a police report. We need to save it. You can save it indefinitely. And if it's just a routine recording, they cycle out, I think, every
Purge.
90 days, and purge out as new recordings come in.
Which is the same way our car cameras are, that those videos will be purged. But like the sergeant was saying, like, if you have a traffic stop where maybe there was an arrest or a DWI, something like that, officers will, what we call, flag a video, and then it'll save indefinitely until, you go in and purge it out. So we do, like, with the cameras, work with government grants. These were greatly funded by a BGA grant, Bureau of Justice Assistance. Like some of our other equipment too, our body armor, radars, things like that. We often do look for grant funding if it's available and we're eligible for it. A lot of times we will look for grant funding, which does come from federal funding sources. Questions? Yes, all of our cars do have cameras and have had cameras in them for, I can't say as long as I've been here, because I think when I first started, I think that most of them did, but we were switching to a model of where all of the cars had cameras, but all of our cars will continue to have cameras, even with the body worn cameras, just because there's, of course, would be limitations of views in front of you. So yes.
We'll see what's going on outside the vehicle. The dash cams are still important. So at full staff, we have a couple people that we need to hire right now. But at full staff, we're 23 from the chief down. And with adding the new car to the fleet just recently, which is being upfitted right now, we have 9 cars.
9, I guess not,
7 patrol cars.
right, with the new one, it's 10. He's correct, 10 adding the new one, not 9. So it is still very much a struggle as far as hiring right now. Like a lot of, even outside of law enforcement, there's, seems to be a shortage of workers in many capacities. And law enforcement has been hit very hard by that. Looking through, and that's not just Missouri or St. Louis area, that's nationwide. Like we talked about earlier, I just got back from the FBI National Academy, where I was with officers from Alaska and Hawaii to Florida and California. So it's definitely something that we're facing. I feel recently we're kind of getting into our HR administrators in here, so she knows how much we've been working to get those positions filled, but unfortunately, law enforcement there just aren't so many people wanting to get into law enforcement anymore for various reasons. The academy classes, I would say over the last few years have probably been a third of the size that they were when I went through. So it's, there's positions filled in only so many people. And of course, we want, really good officers here. So it's definitely a struggle, but there seems to be kind of a little light at the end of the tunnel as far as getting those positions filled. But I know I would say in St. Louis County, for instance, a bigger agency, that they're over 100 officers short. So you can imagine how that impacts, of course, ability to respond to calls, ability to investigate crimes, ability to get to calls quickly. Law enforcement is very short-staffed nationwide right now. So we're staying afloat though here and all of that. So yeah, go ahead. So the last homicide murder that we had was the 170 from a couple of years ago. So we really are very, very fortunate that homicide is something we see very little of, and we would like to keep it that way, of course. So it's just not common here. Robberies, we have not had really any recent robberies. I don't even know that we've had an actual.
There's a report that's published on the website every month that would detail all those statistics, but none that stick out to me the last couple of months.
So, and as far as like, something that we may classify a robbery, if somebody like takes or, or takes something from somebody, it's typically not the robbery that somebody's thinking about, where you go into a store and you point a gun at somebody and rob them, like your kind of more traditional robberies. We haven't had that in a while. The carjackings, we've had a couple of in the last year. Again, I think we're very fortunate with where we are compared to the city and the county and other areas on that. Car thefts and break-ins, though, are at an absolute all-time high in this area in general. We've had a couple attempts of car thefts just a few days ago. If you have a Hyundai and a Kia, be especially careful. Those seem to be the very targeted vehicles right now because they're very easy to steal. But again, that's an area that we've had different task force in the area between St. Charles and St. Louis County working on. But unfortunately, it's been a real problem for this area. And really in the last couple of years. So don't leave your keys in your car. Please tell your friends and family not to leave their keys in their car.
Unlocked cars with the keys in them are also very easy to steal. Imagine that.
Yeah,
correct. Happens very frequently.
Yes.
Almost all the cars we have stolen are unlocked with the keys in them.
Yeah. And I can tell, like, my husband is the chief in Ladue. Last year, they had, I think, like 23 stolen cars. They had a lot of stolen cars over there. And every single one of those had keys in the car. So, it is not to, we don't want to victim shame or anything like that, but there's little things that you can do to help, prevent yourself from being victims of crime. So, yeah, don't leave your keys in your car or valuables that are visible. We have had, again, a lot of car break-ins and, there are some groups in this area looking for guns and gun equipment in particular. And you'd be also amazed at how many people leave, guns in their car. So yes, so said, if you have friends and family, please push that message out for us, help us out there. Yeah, go. Sure. So. We actually have a camp here in Olivet, for little ones though. It's called Municipals. It started last year. This will be our second year. It was very popular and I think everybody liked it and the city really got on board and, I think it was fun for everybody who was involved, including the kids. I don't know, our officers had a lot of fun too, but, so we do a camp here that, and Municipals kind of, we have a couple days of law enforcement, then fire department, and then they also spend some time with public works. Darren, what's that? Planning also. Darren, I don't know if they want to hang out in finance that much. So far, that hasn't been a popular. But so we did start that and just kind of getting little kids exposed. There is also a camp called Camp Fury, which is different places in the United States, but there is one here in St. Louis, and Camp Fury is specifically for young women, teenage girls. Which is an expansion of Girl Scouts, but it's an opportunity to show young women and expose them to not only law enforcement, but the fire side, paramedics, EMS, and kind of give them some exposure to kind of show them that these are all areas where young ladies can come work too. It's not just kind of a man's world anymore. So Camp Fury is a very, very cool camp that they put on. So. Yeah, I as far as like municipals, I wouldn't have any, again, this is just our second year and they are very little. So I wouldn't have any idea really on that. Camp Fury, I think for sure does, because they are a little bit older, you're talking like teenage, getting, close to getting into college and things like that. So I think it does. And it's, a volunteer thing. So they have to have some sort of. Maybe not quite as cool as the fire department because they do water day where they spray all the kids with like the fire hoses. So we can't really compete with that, but yeah, I think they still like us. Yeah, the siren is a close second, I guess. So yeah. Sam, you want to answer that?
72 last week. So it varies.
Yeah, so we again, like a lot of law enforcement, we're short staffed right now. So our officers, I'm sure that probably paychecks are nice, but they're very tired too because they had to work a lot of overtime to kind of cover short shifts. Again, we're kind of getting there, but there is a very long hiring process and training process for law enforcement, as of course you would hope. You want your officers to be very well trained. So when an officer gets out to the academy, they have another 3 months of training before we can actually count them as an officer on their own as far as filling a shift. So it's a very long process to get these positions filled. So these guys have been working a lot of overtime. Now, when we're full staffed and everything's kind of normal, the 40 hours would be kind of an average work week, but
It's like a
Or-
long week and then short week, long week, short week. So it does vary, but like the chief said, it averages to 40 hours.
so and they all work 12-hour shifts. So either 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Like 1 week they'll work Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the next week they'll just work Wednesday, Thursday. And that's kind of the 2-week cycle, which is pretty common in law enforcement. Other question? I'll hand it back over to you, Mayor.
So Chief Andruski, I know that everyone here wants to just wish you great success as the chief, and we're just so thrilled. Seeing your husband swear, when we did the swearing in and your husband put your badge on was really very moving and very meaningful. And we're just so thrilled you've not only been here for 17 years, but hopefully you'll stay here for another 17. Yeah, then you'll catch up to Chief Knox. Well, his were grandchildren. You're not there yet. So please don't get there that fast. But I want to point out something to those that are here and that those will be watching this, that the collegiality here in Olivet is amazing because all of the directors of the different departments came to support you this morning and to hear what you had to say. And I think that says something. You know, this isn't, you have to do this with your work time. Everyone's got busy days, but everyone carved out, from the parks director to the planning and zoning to the finance to our communications director to our HR director. And that says something about not only Olivet, but about you as well. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. I believe there was going to be a
Mayor,
list of.
Actually, we have one question from Leslie online that
Oh,
I
I'm
missed.
sorry.
I didn't, I apologize, I missed it. How does Chief Andruski see being a woman as chief impacts and or changes how she does her job?
So I've gotten that question quite a bit. And for me, I don't think it really does. I mean, I try to think it doesn't. Again, there was a period of time here for 10 years that I was the only woman working in our police department for 10 years. So I am very used to working with guys for the most part. And still it is a very male dominated profession, especially at an administrative level. I've gone to a couple meetings, dinners and things, and I definitely have been the only woman in the room in this position more than once. So it's noticeable, but I don't like to think that it affects my job in any way. And I think I have a really great relationship with all of the officers here. And I think, like any chief, you just want to do the best job for your community and your officers. And so I like to think that gender doesn't really have much of a role in it. So I have to wait longer for my uniforms because they usually don't have them in stock. But other than that, you know, I like to think that we're, you know, kind of all the same in this position. So.
But one of the things is that you definitely become then a role model for these young girls and women in our community to see a female in this position. So, thank you for that. So are there any more questions? And I'll just end with some general announcements. We've got some exciting programs coming up this month. We have the FDA Fill the Boot. And what that is that since 1954, firefighters across the country have collected critical funds in the community, $1 at a time, as part of the Fill the Boot program for MDA, and it's Muscular Dystrophy Association. And each crew of our fire department will be taking turns. So it's going to be on 3 different days, and most likely at the corner of Price and Olive. But if things are crazy with the construction, then we may move it to Dealman and Olive. So July 29th, August 5th, and August 19th. And the tentative schedule right now is from 11 to 1 on those days. So if you drive by, please, you know, be generous with our firefighters. We also have a program called Starry Nights, which is incredible. There'll be telescopes at Warson Park from 8 to 10. bring a blanket, bring some friends and family and join us for that. It is, we're doing it with the St. Louis Astronomical Society for an evening of stargazing. And then Warson Park on August 27th, we were going to have a movie in the park. 'Cause we had I believe she was a teenager or a college student that actually said, I miss movies in the park. And that was kind of nice to hear from someone young. And then Olivet Night Out, which you should talk with your neighbors. I know the Davids is a household that's always open for this. But will be Olivet Night Out. And if you need to call the register and register your block, and then the fire department, the police department, all of your council members, we try to make it to as many homes, many of the streets as possible to visit with the residents and have a chance to enjoy a night out. And the one thing not on here is our next Coffee with the Mayor, which it's on Tuesday, no, today's Wednesday, August 13th. And it's going to be with a gentleman by the name of Jordan Kadosh. He's the new regional director of the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League. And the timeliness of choosing him next month is because we'll be getting into the school season, and he will be able to address some of the hate crimes and what's going on in the world and with the schools and safety in the schools and some of what he deals with as the regional director for the Anti-Defamation League. And he's new to this region. So I thought it'd be nice for our community to welcome him and have an opportunity to hear from him as well. So I want to thank everyone again for coming this morning, and a special thank you to Chief Andruski, or I said earlier, Chief Beth, and to Sergeant Lotham. I said it right the first time. Okay, Lotham. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next month, I hope.